This is every lot that's in a subdivision. You run a French drain down the swale and you put a curtain French drain around your patio, tightens the yard right up. Time to get your yard back. All right, the guys are putting a curtain French drain around a patio. This is very common. What happens is all the base material underneath pavers or concrete, that'll wick water. It'll just fill all the pores of the base material with water. If you put a curtain French drain around a patio, you'll be able to drain all that water out from underneath the patio. That way in the wintertime, you won't have this heave. The other thing that happens, it's always wet right along the edge, because when it rains, the rain all works its way to the edge. So it's always just super soft and soaked, and then the base material underneath it wicks all that water. It's a problem. Doesn't matter if you're in the north, the south. A curtain French drain around a patio works so well. We've been doing these for years, and people are really happy. So we got to clean out on the dominant pipe. The inside pipe is not dominant. The inside pipe, we're trying to get more air. If we have more air, we're going to dry this out faster. So that's what the inside pipe creates, a lot of void. That pipe, inside that pipe, it's going to be full of air. You can't create that much air, a big pocket of air like that, with stone. It's just not going to happen. The stone would have to be 12-inch cobble rock to create that kind of void and that kind of air pocket. So this is going to dry it out really, really well. Now we're going to have this Y tied in to this main. That's the dominant pipe here, because we want to be able to run a camera through it, an inspection camera. We can push a hose through it and flush it out. So here's another clean out. You're going to be able to get inside the dominant pipe to the Y, and then that dominant pipe is going right to that storm drain that the guys are coring and tapping. They're hooking up to a storm drain. They're also running another French drain in the swale. This yard has a swale right here. It was developed that way. It works really well. But inside that swale, it's always soft and spongy. Now, what a storm drain does is it takes care of excess water, meaning if there's standing water in this swale and it can flow to the storm drain, that storm drain will take it in. What the storm drain can't do, and what it won't do, is dry out the yard. It's going to get rid of the bulk water, but all the water in the soil, it's going to stay saturated. Hauling away all that clay, putting in a couple of perforated pipes with stone, and of course wrapping them in a good non-woven geotextile filter fabric is going to allow us to pull the water from the subsurface, because remember, this only does the surface. But when you drill through the side of the concrete catch basin and you tap it, that's why we call that a core and tap. We core it, and we go ahead and we hydraulic concrete a pipe that we can connect to. The guys did a beautiful job. We used the female connector. You don't have to tape the female connector. It holds really, really well, and you're not trying to make it watertight. When you're doing a curtain French drain around a patio and you have like a half horseshoe or a horseshoe shape, use the 45s with the Y. Francisco just made a really, really cool connection on that dominant pipe with a Y. Most guys would just use a T, but you're not going to get an inspection camera or a garden hose pushed through a T. That Y with those two 45s, that's a 45 degree, that's a 45 degree fitting, coupled to a Y fitting. The outside pipe being our dominant pipe, we're always going to be able to service it. We're going to be able to run a camera through it, check it out, see what it looks like. If it's got some sediment built up in it, we can go ahead and flush it out. If you want to really flush it out good, you can use a power wash, with a jet nozzle. So we're going to tie our dominant pipe into the dominant pipe in the swale. Our dominant pipe is the one that's hooked in the storm drain catch basin. Patrick is putting a Y fitting, one of our extra heavy duty Ys. He's going to Y that dominant pipe. So we have two dominant pipes. We got the one in the French drain that's in the swale, and then we have the other dominant pipe that runs up to the patio, and then you have that horseshoe shape. That's a nice curtain French drain around a patio. This is how you do a curtain French drain around the patio the right way. So let's talk about all the parts you need for a French drain like this. The guys used a couple Ys, one of our female adapters that goes to PVC. We're using Schedule 40 through that core and tap. We have our all virgin end plugs. None of these materials are recycled. Everything is virgin. And all of our parts are mold injected. The Y's mold injected. These 45s are mold injected. Virgin end plug, because we're using virgin pipe. Animals like to chew on recycled pipe. We don't want that. We got a 45 coupler, 2 of those. There's that second Y I spoke of. Over here they got a clean out with an end plug on the pipe that's not the dominant pipe. The pipe that's just adding more air, more void, so that we can dry this ground out quicker and faster. And I love having a trench big enough for 2 4-inch pipes, because what's going to happen is the sediment's going to settle on the bottom of this trench, and this trench bottom is so wide and big that the sediment is going to be only built up a little bit. It'll be in the very bottom of the pipe, and that's it. If you have a single pipe trench that's very narrow, you're going to get the same sediment that washes through the fabric. Fine clays wash through the fabric through gravity and capillary action. There's nothing you can do about that. If you have a single pipe trench, it's only a single pipe wide. Now that sediment, that same amount of sediment, because you're not going to change the amount, whether it's a single pipe or a double pipe wide trench, the amount of sediment coming through that fabric on the sidewalls is the same. So it's going to build up thicker and higher up into the pipe on a single pipe trench. I've been preaching this for years. We get just a little bit of sediment in the bottom of our trenches. No water really flows in the bottom of the pipe. When you get up into the pipe where the diameter is greater, now you're hurting yourself. You're going to see a performance drop off. So the guys got 2 of these cleanouts, one on each side of this curtain French drain on the dominant pipe. You can see the men are putting our drainage sand. We're going to put drain sand on top of the fabric. We want to improve its performance. If there is any water that tries to puddle around here, we want the top of the drain to take that water in. The only way that's going to happen, especially in a backyard that's clay, because we cut the sod off with a sod cutter. So if you grow the sod on a clay lot, you can bet there's going to be clay in the backing of the sod. So if you just put that right on top of the fabric, it's likely to not take the water in very well. You put the sand on top of the fabric and then install the sod, what you're going to end up with is a French drain that can draw in the water quickly. Now, once the grass roots root through all the tiny holes that are punched in the fabric, now through gravity and capillary action, the water is going to run in there. You're going to move a lot of water from the surface to the subsurface drain that we're building. All right, so over here we got a third clean out. We have a clean out on each end of that horseshoe on that curtain French drain around the patio. And we have a clean out on the dominant pipe. This is the pipe that's tied into the city storm drain. We went ahead and we just put a clean out cap on the other pipe. We have 1-inch stone. It's like 3/4 inch to 1 inch. Now, if you do not use any fabric at all, you got to use pea stone. One of the things that I see people doing wrong all the time, they say, oh, I don't want to use fabric, because maybe I seen a video that was put up by somebody who was not educated in how to use it, and they didn't get the results they were hoping for. You decide to not use the fabric, you can't go with stone like this. See the voids? You see all the shadows? See all the big voids? This inch, like this, like 3/4 inch stone. It's really nice rock. We get really good drainage with it. Well, you can't use stone like this. You have to use pea stone. You have to use pea stone if you don't have any fabric. So just a small little pea stone, like that's all you could use. All of it has to be tiny and small, because you have to build a stone filter zone if you're not going to use a fabric. There's so many channels on YouTube showing guys that won't use the fabric, and then they're putting 3/4 stone or 1-inch stone, and sometimes even bigger, in a trench. You know, they're preaching about, oh, buy number 57 stone, and then they're not using the fabric. Well, guess what? They gave that French drain an expiration date at the time of install. If you're not going to use the fabric, you have to use pea stone. There's no question about it. It's beyond common sense. I've tore out systems that were both good and bad over the years. I've seen systems that were put in the 1950s, 1960s. I've seen tile lines with pea stone and no fabric, and they're fine. So if you're not going to use the fabric, you have to use pea stone. Every lot in a subdivision can use this. Put a French drain down the swale, put a curtain French drain around your patio. Tighten up that yard. If you have a wet yard, this is how you get your yard back. Patrick's putting sand on the fabric. When you just slap the sod on the fabric without the sand, until the roots root in, you won't get the best surface drain. This will allow the water on the surface, any puddles, to drain right through the French drain. Eventually the grass roots will grow through all the little tiny holes in the fabric. You can see all the small holes in this fabric. We got some good sunlight that's kind of showing all the needle holes. You can see all those little holes. This has been needle punched. Look at all those little holes. So that's why the men only overlap this a couple inches, because we want the roots to grow through all those tiny holes that are punched in that non-woven geotextile filter fabric. Then the water is just going to fall through gravity and capillary action with the root right into the French drain system. So Patrick's putting the sod back on top of the sand. If you cut the sod out with a sod cutter and then you take a shovel and just cut that strip of sod that you cut out in like 18-inch pieces, it goes together like a puzzle. It's real easy to manage. You always want to put your sod on the side of the trench that you're not working. The guys brought all the stone in and took all the dirt out on this road that they built. They put their sod over here. Same with the drain and the swale. They put their sod on the side of the trench that they're not going to be driving all their equipment. It's okay to work from that side and kneel on the sod, things like that. It's no big deal. You just don't want to be driving equipment over it. When you run your curtain French drain around your patio, go around the steps, everything, all those contoured shapes. Try to do this with PVC pipe. And I'm going to wish you all kinds of luck, because it's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to grab the water right at the base material that the patio's built on, because PVC has to be ran like this in a straight line. You can maybe do a 45 here and another 45 there, but you have to go through the clay all the way to the patio. You got to make it to that base material. You have to follow the contoured shape of your paver patio, your concrete patio, to get to that base that's holding all that water. Also, corrugated pipe has holes on the top, on the sides, and on the bottom, 360 degrees. PVC only has holes on the bottom, which means two things. One, you have to put stone underneath it. We don't put stone underneath this pipe because we don't want to leave water behind for the trees to sniff out. Look, we got a tree right there. If I left stone under my pipe, that tree would be so happy, and boy, would it grow. Unfortunately, right near the storm drain, that would be the end of it. It would just absolutely plug the drain right at the storm drain, basically rendering the whole system useless. PVC pipe, you have to put stone under the pipe. It only has holes on the bottom is why. So once you plug the holes on the bottom, it don't work. And to try to go around contouring shapes with PVC pipe, man, I just don't get it. This is such an easy thing to understand. There shouldn't be a French drain in a yard that's not ran with a good quality virgin corrugated pipe for best results. So if you're tying both pipes together so you could run a jetter through both of them to clean any sediment out of the bottom of the pipe, the second one don't need a turf plate. you're going to locate it and find it, and it's not going to get lost if you just put the turf plate on one. So the guys cut this pipe like about 18 inches shorter so they can get a turf plate on it. This one, just put the 4-inch plug on it, no big deal. Now, if you need a riser, you just put a riser on it. These are 2-inch lifts. You slip it over here, then you put this cap, look, just like that. These are 2-inch lifts. You know, you got to go up 4 inches. You use 2 risers. Same with the one that has the turf plate. These cleanouts are quick, easy, no glue, no screws. Really nice to use. They're made out of HDPE, so they're indestructible, super strong. Unlike PVC, this stuff will last forever. So you can see how the men just put the fabric around. You know, you can see the circles they cut off. They did a really nice job so that they can put that solid cover. Beautiful. Cal's putting that turf plate on the dominant one. He's just putting the plug on the one that wasn't the dominant one. We'll always be able to get inside this French drain. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. It supports the channel. If you have any questions regarding this installation, leave them in the comments section. I'm your host, Robert Sherwood, and until the next video.